In today's video, as you can see, my lawn is gone. I'm going to show you how I got here. Yo mate, what up? Welcome to another lawn tip vid without a lawn. Now before we get started, if you guys are new to this channel, check my video just up there and have a look at why I've actually done this to my lawn. Welcome to the dirt pit everyone. Now, it's looking a bit sad, isn't it? But let's just explain how I got to this point and the processes I took to get the lawn to this point. So I did this a week ago, so last Saturday. Today is Saturday. This video will be uploaded this afternoon. But I'm just going to show you guys what I did to get to this point. So basically I didn't really film much when I was actually doing the jobs. Well, I did film, but I didn't actually talk into the camera because I was flipping busy, so I didn't really have time to actually film the whole time while I was doing, but that's alright. But I'll show you guys the process of how I got here, and I'll explain what I did and what steps I took to get the lawn to nothingness, to a desert. So first things first is we went to Nathan's place and pulled out the old turf that was there. So what we did is I got him to round up the lawn a couple of weeks ago, probably about a month ago. So he sprayed the whole thing with Roundup and then left it 2 weeks and sprayed it again with Roundup to really knock that Kikuyu that was in his lawn and a couple of other random weeds like paspalum and stuff. But when we got there to actually, you know, we're getting ready to lay the turf and stuff, we noticed there's still heaps of debris around, and there will be when you kill something, especially Kikuyu. It's still going to be pretty thick and in the lawn there. So what you got to do is you got to basically get rid of that material. Now you can use a bobcat or rake it out by hand. I wouldn't rake it out, that'd be the biggest job in the world. Or you can hire a turf cutter out, which is what we did. So this is the turf cutter just here. So it's got a little blade down the bottom, which has an action which sort of digs into the soil, and then it's got a self-propelled thing which pulls it along and rips it out like that, and it's done a pretty good job as of the moment. And basically we went down to the depth of 20 millimeters because that's how deep we're going to go to pull out my turf as well. So we went down 20 mil and ripped all of that out. Now obviously you're not going to be able to get all the edges and stuff like that as well. So what I actually did was I got a mattock and just mattocked up the edges. Now that was a pain in the bottom of a job, but it does the job, and it took a couple of hours. But the biggest thing when you are preparing a site is make sure you do your preparation well, so your turf is going to establish well as well. If you don't do the proper soil prep and you don't get rid of all the old debris and the old material, you're going to find your lawn's really going to struggle to establish from that turf. So you do this anytime you're turfing, not when you're just taking it from someone's house, stealing it and put it down. Always when you're doing a turfing job, make sure you prep the site well. Now if you don't know how to do it, hire someone out with a bobcat or someone that knows what they're doing, because if you don't put the time and effort in, as I keep saying, you can have a dead lawn and waste a lot of money. Now originally we were planning just to actually put some soil down on top, so we got it nice and level. We found that the soil that he actually had there was quite loose and wasn't compacted at all, and I could actually rake in to a depth down about an inch and a half, so more like 2 inches, sorry. What's that? What do you reckon? 2 inches, yeah. So we got down to that depth, so we didn't actually need to bring any soil in, and the level that the ground was compared to the concrete and stuff was perfect for us to lay that 20 mil of turf on top. It was actually really, really good. So it was nice. Now if you had really compacted soil, I'd recommend getting a rotary hoe in or something, or at least putting some topsoil on top so that your roots can establish in some nice soft soil below. So all we did really is we raked it around the soil that was a bit loose and we leveled it out with the lawn level.
This is Benjamin Sims in his natural habitat.
Just to make the area nice and level, and there was no like air pockets in the soil, like big dips and stuff like that. Now we will have to top dress down the line, but you got to make sure you prep like that at the start. Now once we had leveled it out and, you know, look at it, getting it looking nice and dandy and tidy, what we did next was water in the soil that was there, just because it was a bit dusty, so it didn't get all floating away and losing all our soil. But also you've got to water in before you actually lay your turf down, so the soil is moist, so when your roots hit that soil they're not just going to bake on that hot soil you got below. So what we did is next is once we'd done that, we watered it in, and then the next job was to actually pull the turf out from my house. Now pulling this turf out from my house was an interesting job. It was actually a little bit hard for me to see my turf come out, and when we did the actual front yard we really struggled to pull that turf out at that 20 mil depth, because my front yard was a bit uneven. There was a big hump right in the middle as well, and it sort of sloped downwards. Now when you're using a turf cutter and you're going down a hill with a turf cutter, obviously it's not really going to cut it out perfectly, so we got a lot of odd random bits that we sort of had to jigsaw together at the front of Nathan's house, which was a pain in the butt, but it did work. Now as soon as we got at the back, I'll put a quick time lapse up as well of the turf coming out, but as soon as we got at the back, it was really easy to pull that turf out. And the reason we went at the 20 mil depth of soil underneath is so that it stuck together really well. So if you had something like Cooch or Kikuyu or Buffalo, you could probably go a little bit thinner because you'd be able to roll it up because of all the runners and the stolons that are in those grass types. But since we had tall fescue, doesn't really, the stuff I had technically has rhizomes, it's called RTF tall fescue, but yeah, it's not really the same as Kikuyu and stuff like that. So we rolled it to deeper depth. Normally they recommend you go thinner so that your roots actually establish quicker. The thicker you go, the slower your roots going to establish, but you can actually walk on a bit more, it can take a bit more traffic. So there's like a variation between, they recommend between 5 millimeters and 25 mil that you cut your turf out at. We chose 20 mil just so we could roll it up easily and put it in the ute and take it and lay it really quickly. But you can go 5 mil if you only want to take a little bit out. So next thing we did is we went to Nathan's house and started laying the turf. So we nearly got the whole backyard done with the turf. Now we got quite long rolls, which was really handy, so we could just roll it out and flick it down on the soil. And as you can see, I don't know if you can see, but there's some areas that are really wet because we watered in beforehand. That is good because you want your roots, as I said earlier, to hit that soil and not be stressed out when they hit it from baking soil. So it's really important that you make sure you wet it beforehand, just so your turf has the best chance of actually establishing well. So for the first couple of days, you really have to make sure you water that lawn heaps. And when I say heaps, I mean heaps and heaps and heaps. So you want to basically, it's sort of like when you're seeding and you want to keep the soil moist all the time. It's very similar with turf. So for the first 10 to 14 days, you really want to keep that soil moist the whole time. You don't want to overwater it, but you just want to keep it moist so that those roots get a chance to establish and actually root down into the soil below. If you don't give it enough water, it's just going to dry out and die. Now, as soon as you've laid that turf down, you want to actually roll it in as well to get any air pockets out that are underneath the turf. So you just want to make sure the turf is contacting everywhere it can on the soil. So we used the water roller. I didn't get any footage of that, but we just got a water roller that you fill up with water and you can push across the yard and actually level it out a little bit with that water roller and stop those air pockets happening. And the reason you do that is just to be safe. Tell you what, I'm glad all that is done, but it was a really hard day for me to see. It was a bit weird, a bit of a surreal moment. All my turf being pulled out that I had put quite a lot of effort into, and a bit of money as well, into going into someone else's house. But I'm glad that I didn't kill it off and actually put it in someone else's backyard. And it is really odd walking outside now and seeing this dirty dirt pit behind me. Get it? Dirty dirt pit? Anyway, that was a bad joke. But anyway, so then I've had a few things going on at my house. Now I thought it was going to be really easy to get this all sorted out and working really well, but I've actually had a massive week every single day. That's why I'm shooting this video today on Saturday. I've just had a massive week trying to get everything done, but that's right. I've got to suck it up and get going with it. But anyway, so what we did is, originally I was just planning to put some topsoil on top of my whole area after I chipped all the stuff out from the sides and stuff. But I found that the soil was ridiculously hard and the root mass below the actual stuff that I pulled out was still quite thick and really hard. So what I ended up doing was getting a rotary hoe in. So here's a bit of footage of me using the rotary hoe. Now I spent probably 9 hours on that rotary hoe over the whole backyard and probably went 150 mil deep, which I'm not even going to figure that out in inches. But anyway, it went quite deep. Wait, inches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. 6 inches, there you go, figured it out. Anyway, so, that was stupid. Anyway, so we went down quite deep, and I'm so glad that I did, because soil prep is the biggest thing when you're seeding, and I reckon I'm going to have a heaps better result with my seeding because of this massive prep I put in beforehand. So when I went down that deep, like, it was really hard, that soil, and I reckon I would have struggled to actually get that seed to go really well just because of how hard the soil was underneath. And I reckon some tall fescue would have come up underneath as well because the root mass was so thick in that under that soil where we pulled the turf out from. So I'm glad I did it. Originally I was just going to water the lawn for a week or two and wait for the actual roots to pop up and then just kill it with Roundup, but heaps better using a rotary hoe. If you guys are looking at doing a similar thing, hire out a rotary hoe. It's like 135 bucks for a day, and it did the job, man. It really turned up really well. So I've leveled it all out now, as you can see. That was good fun. I basically just used the back of a rake and pushed it around like that. Which, you know, this isn't the end of the leveling too. I'm going to do a video next week on the leveling, so we're going to actually get a laser level and use a big 3-meter screed and actually get this really level so that I can just mow really low with that reel mower or cylinder mower, whatever you want to call it. So the leveling's not completely finished, it's just a basic level at the moment. So what I did is I leveled it out, rolled it in with a roller, and I'm going to give another roll in today just to settle it, because we're about to get 20 to 40 mil of rain. I don't want it to start eroding and stuff like that. You can see there's some clouds in the background. But anyway, so I'll roll it in and just make sure it's not compacted, but just nice and firm so it doesn't like wash away when the actual rain starts to come in. I'll just chuck in just a quick little shot of Nathan's lawn now with my lawn in there, just do a quick before and after. Have a look at it, man, it really turned out really well. Now we're going to have to top dress that because it's a little bit humpy, because the turf cutter sometimes didn't cut to the proper depth. Sometimes you just get that, so we'll have to, but it's pretty easy to fix. We're just going to use we're going to top dress. Probably once the root's established, we'll top dress. Once we've had a couple of mows, we'll get some top dressing soil on there. I normally just like to get an organic mix when I'm top dressing around here. Sand, people like to use sand as well. I normally like to use a sandy loam. It really depends on what your soil's like underneath and your soil profile. Probably when I start top dressing here, I'll use some sand just because I've got really clay soil, so I really just want that water to penetrate through that sand, but that'll be another video in the future. But just check these before and afters, and the lawn looks really cool at Nathan's house. I'm pretty happy with it. Alright, so that's about it for this video. So if you guys have any questions on all of that, let me know, because I'm sure I've missed something in this video, as you always seem to when you're doing this sort of stuff, but it doesn't matter. Subscribe if you have not already, because some more content coming up like this. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and you have a good week. Where'd you cut my lawn? What? There's a bit left.